Jessica Herrington is a futures specialist in the School of Cybernetics at ANU, and she joins us now from Canberra. Jessica Herrington, welcome. So do you think Christie's should be doing this or not?
Look, it's a very tricky issue that can't just be answered as a one-off sort of question. There are really valid sides to both parts of the debate. I, for one, am an artist who creates works with AI, and a lot of the artists in the exhibition that they're showing are doing really interesting creative work.
Okay, let's go to some of that work now. What is machine hallucinations?
So Machine Hallucinations is a work by Rafiq Anadol, who's a very interesting contemporary artist. So he actually uses publicly available data sets produced by NASA. So it might be imagery of space or of Earth, and that imagery is mixed together with an AI algorithm, which generates these really interesting dynamic waves, which are produced as videos.
And why do you think that is valuable as art as opposed to someone creating it with their own hand?
Well, it's not really necessarily one or the other, but I think that, you know, the sort of work that Rafiq is doing is really not possible to do with your own hands. Like, it's just such a massive data set. And I think this sort of scale of visualization and allowing us to see what's out there in new ways is really only possible through this sort of method.
Okay, let's go to another item in the Christie's auction, and this is called robot painting. And what's happening with this one?
So robot painting is a really interesting one. So this is where AI sort of branches more into performance. So this particular work is partly digital and then partly on canvas. So you can see here that it's actually a painting that's painted with this robotic arm. So what happens is, as the bidding process takes place, each bid means that another small square of the painting is iteratively created and then painted by the robot. So the size of the work and the price of the work is determined by how the auction plays out.
And Jessica, did you start out as an artist or start out in IT?
I started out as an artist, so I've been an artist for about 20 years, and I'm a researcher as well.
Yeah. And so have you had any feedback from other people who are artists who are kind of strictly traditionalists when it comes to this? And have you had some kind of pretty interesting discussions with them?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of my colleagues in other spaces, like in the sort of more traditional arts realm, are pretty against AI as an art form, which is totally understandable because it does pose a real risk to certain art forms dying out and the sort of livelihoods of certain arts practitioners. Another issue is that from some Indigenous groups that I've spoken to, they are concerned about cultural appropriation and the sort of training that occurs on Indigenous works that can then be used to create fake works of Indigenous art.
Yeah, so what about the argument that creatives' work is being used to train some of these AI models and so is unfairly benefiting from that, and the original artists aren't getting any royalties for that?
Yeah, so what we're seeing here is a really interesting point in time where copyright isn't really keeping up with how creatives actually make and produce work. So traditionally, the copyright law is related to reproduction. So if you reproduce something exactly or pretty similarly, then you have issues. But here we have AI models which are actually scraping images from the internet. They're not actually saving them, but they're recording the information, and then they're using that information and that hard work that artists did to actually create new types of works. So yeah, there's a lot of ethical issues to unpack there.
Yeah, and I might just get the director to play the tape where there are a number of images again, because there's one that pops up through that tape. They're kind of flashes of it, of a girl with kind of red hair and a big voluminous outfit on, kind of looks kind of inflated. And I've noticed that there she is there.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about that? Because that one, I had a look on the Christie site before, and that seems to be the one that's got the highest bid at the moment. So I think it's about 100,000 Australian dollars.
Yeah, so that one's an interesting one. That's by a artist duo who are husband and wife. And I think what they were interested in doing with that particular piece was seeing how the husband basically experiments with his wife's image and how she appears in the data set. So he's really experimenting with issues of identity and, you know, seeing how identity can be pushed in this sort of new digital realm, in the new digital space. And I guess like that's actually what's at the core of these particular works that makes them different, because people aren't just prompting to get results as you might usually do. People are really integrating with AI as a core part of the creative process. So that means that creativity as we currently know it and what it means to actually be an artist is really radically changing at the moment.
And so you see this as not as an insult to art, but an evolution of art?
Yeah, I mean, I try to remain as balanced as possible and listen to both sides. You are
working for one side.
Yeah, so I definitely do experiment with the technology, and I'm interested in pushing the boundaries. But I'm also super interested in how we can actually work with these systems more ethically to ensure more benefits for more creative practitioners, so that everyone is included. That's a really big part.
And I guess you approached it from the beginning as were you kind of a traditional artist to begin with, and then you've kind of moved into AI?
Yeah, so I was a traditional artist in like drawing, painting, sculpture and printmaking, and I gradually moved into digital art through augmented reality and virtual reality, and now I'm working with AI.
And so I'm interested to hear, do you reckon that image of the girl with the orange hair and the inflated suit is the coolest image in that Christie's auction, or have you seen others there that you, you actually chose the ones that we pointed out first?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So I chose 3 favourites. So the one with the robotic sort of painting arm that you saw before by Alexander Rebin is great. The Refik Anadol one is just really spectacular. Yeah. And there's also one by Su-Wen Chang, who actually uses body movement data from her own body and also brain signals through an EEG headset to actually inform a robot, which then does the painting. So there's really interesting layers of that relationship between humans and machines.
Yeah, okay, well, and that's that one there. And yeah, so I'd be interested to see if any of the 3 you pick end up getting the highest prices at this Christie's auction.
It'll be interesting to see.
Okay, Jessica, thanks so much for having a chat to us from Canberra.
Great, thank you.